is in a very specific spot in the book, and it doesn't talk about the other two answers that are there. It only talks about the
So that has to be the answer. Okay.
so
Yeah.
I'll send you an email.
Yeah, send me an
I
email.
just want to know.
And,
And then question 5 was the other one, because it's very specific.
oh, okay.
It says in the text and it says blah, 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 we're given, and it states two things,
Mm-hmm.
but the other answers that I think are wanting to be marked are not out of one thing, they're out of a subset of it. It's not specific. I'll send you an email.
Yeah, just send me an email. I'll take a look at it.
Because I see.
All right. That'll work.
Doctor, I have a question.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
regarding the final draft. I submitted it and everything is okay. However, in the completion progress, it's telling me that it's not completed and it's red.
Either it's submitted as a draft, it might still be in draft mode,
It doesn't give
or
us,
sometimes it doesn't update it.
yeah, it doesn't,
Yeah.
in that, like for this, it didn't give us, like how when we submit the other papers, it says submit,
Yeah.
30 minutes to bring it back. This one didn't. When it
Yeah.
went into the, what's the system we use?
Turn it in.
Turn it in,
Mhm.
that's the last that it
Right,
could.
the last, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what the setting is, on it, but if I don't see it, I'll email you.
No problem.
I'll email
And
you.
you saw
if I
my
see
new
it.
one, right?
Yeah, I
The
saw your
correct
new
one?
one. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know. About freaked out.
Yeah, no.
Luckily, I was able to like figure out after some YouTubing how to recover it. But it was,
Oh, okay, you lost.
yeah, it was lost. Like I hate the cloud. Like I like saving things on my computer,
Yeah.
but for some reason, things are being forced into the cloud, which I don't.
Yeah,
Right.
the OneDrive problem.
So yeah, they're being forced and then I have 3 OneDrive.
Yeah,
Cause I have one from when I was at the golf college, one for here, and then my own.
oh, yeah, they go kind of,
And they're not thinking, all of them aren't thinking properly.
yeah, okay. Yeah, send me an email, and then I'll double check, but I think I saw it, Joshua. How you doing? Yeah, I think I saw yours, though.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not really sure how Moodle updates things. Sometimes the system glitches. It's been real glitchy this session, so it could be anything. But as long as I can see it and I grade it, and we're good. Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments, complaints
Just
about?
on this week's assignment,
Mhm.
the group project that is, the 5 questions that we have to put the 5 slides together, do you need references in any of that?
No.
Okay, so the write-up and everything on
The
that.
write-up, yes. The write-up references citations, yes. The PowerPoint, no.
And that's on the one that talks about what are our challenges, what are our,
Yeah, so, use your, judgment on this, right? If it's asking you what your challenges are, there's nothing to reference there. There's nothing to cite there.
Right.
It's just your opinion and the things that you personally have gone through, so there's no problems there. But if you cite something and say, yeah, I had issue with, understanding whatever compensation. I understand that 85% of the students had an issue with that. That's something you need to cite, right? Where'd you get 85% from? If it's
Okay,
a statistic
yeah.
or it's a fact, it's something that you're using to support your point, then yes, you need to cite that. But in general, if you're just talking about your challenges,
yeah,
No.
yeah, because this is your paper in a minute, your
No.
challenges, your achievements,
Yeah.
lessons learned, and your conclusions. So-
yeah, so lessons learned, all that's, yeah, those are all personal, and
Yeah.
there's no citation or reference needed for those particular.
And then on the group, the other group on the case
Mhm.
study,
Mhm.
the case study is pretty cut and dry forward.
Yeah.
There's 5 questions in it.
Mhm.
Those are the 5 questions you want us
Yes.
to answer
Yes,
based on what you.
yeah, because it should be the religion, is it the religion case
Yeah.
study? Yes,
Mhm.
yes. So you
Yeah.
just answer the questions that are posed within the pamphlet. The whole thing is comprehensive. So just open it up, whatever instructions they give you in that particular PDF, follow those, and that's all you need to do.
Okay.
Okay. Of course, if you got any questions, email me.
So all the answers from the file you already uploaded, right?
For which one? For the
For the research discussion.
Uh,
Except for the group study.
the group, yeah, it's already there. Yeah, it's already there. Your individual individual group study, oh, case analysis, excuse me, yes, that's already there. So just, it's in there, open that up, it's a PDF. It'll have everything in there, have the scenario, all the questions, instructions, everything's in there.
Yeah,
Okay.
because that one even gives like example answers.
Yeah, it's pretty.
And then do you want each person to answer all 5 of those?
No, do it as a group.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as your group RD,
Mhm.
yeah, your group RDs, you break it up as you see fit. The case analysis,
The case analysis.
I want you to answer all the questions.
So each person answers all 5?
No, not for your case analysis.
Each,
Each one.
That's right, yeah. Oh, this week is week 6, it's the group case analysis.
yeah.
Oh, you have a group
This
RD
is
and a
where,
group
this
case
is where
analysis.
we're,
Yeah, so same thing. The group answers all 5 questions. So not each individual, however you guys break it up.
right.
If you decide, you're gonna do question 1, or someone's gonna address question 1 and 2, 3, and 4, whatever, however you do it,
Right.
as long as everything gets addressed. Now the write-up is a little different, however you guys break that up, that's up to you. But the presentation piece, as long as everyone in the group has an opportunity to speak, that's all I care about.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about the opportunity to speak and address all the issues or the questions that are in.
Because this doesn't have, so the case study doesn't have a video.
No, there's no video for the
Right.
case study, no.
Okay, so the case study is
Case study strictly a
just
document,
one, and does everybody turn in the whole paper on the case study?
just
or
one person. One person per group, anytime there's a group assignment, it's just one per group.
Okay.
That's
And
it,
then-
I'll go in.
Because I know on the research discussion, the one that says about your paper,
One has to address those particular questions.
yeah,
Yeah.
you put
For
everybody
themselves,
else 5
yeah.
slides.
So this would be the only, RD where each of you are gonna speak about your own challenges individually.
Right,
So
right.
me and Matt will have her time, however long that takes. Don't take more than probably 5 minutes
Yeah.
each person. Challenges, lesson learned, boom. Me and Matt moves on. You next, you do yours. Joshua does it, Hannah does hers.
And that's it, I will not like answer or discuss, Christopher case study, only.
You can,
No,
not for the RD. No,
No.
well, you've got the case study?
Yeah.
No,
no.
not for the case study.
I'll turn in the case.
Yeah, not for the group case study. The group case study,
It's one person.
it's one
turns in
person,
the
that's
paper.
it.
All our names are on
the
it.
group RD, that's it.
Everybody has to.
Everybody has to do, that's a presentation required. Started. So. After we had Zoom connection, so that was pretty interesting. Huh?
It is different, no?
It's very different, yes. I don't necessarily like it, but
That makes
it is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was good that, I mean,
Viewers, right? Okay, so before I get started, haven't looked at the final draft papers yet. But I will do that probably tomorrow or, at least tonight, maybe, I'm not sure. Get through 1 or 2, all right? Pay attention to that similarity score, all right? I don't blatantly look at it, like I look at it, but I go and I look at what has been highlighted, all right? And if the majority of your paper is highlighted, then you probably need to go in, revise that bad boy, okay? The aim is to keep it below 10%, right? Really, on all the scores. We don't have the AI score thing anymore on there for right now, because I think it was so ambiguous that they took it out and we're not gonna use that right now. But for the, huh?
Oh, I'm talking to myself. Sorry.
That's okay. So if for the similarity score, make sure that it's under 10%, okay? Do your best to really to make it under 10%, all right? Because anything above that, really, that's that's a flag for me. I go look at it, and usually most times it's basically, okay, what's up, Joshua?
For the one we are submitted
Mhm.
already.
Yeah.
And it's more than that, so what do you want?
Nothing, just
Can I,
approve.
can I re-upload it?
Can you re-upload it, huh?
I checked on, what's it called? Grammarly,
Yeah,
and it was showing me less than 20. I reviewed something.
Yeah.
Now I put it on 20. It's working.
yeah, it should shot up like a rocket, huh? Yeah, if you wanna revise it, resubmit it, by all means, go ahead. The problem with resubmissions, it's not that I don't wanna take them, it's just that I don't have the time to go back and look at that. You know, you have to think, you're not the only student I have, or none of you are, right? So if you're asking, you can assume there's 2 or 3 people other asking me to resubmit and then go back in. There's no problem resubmitting, but the point is, can I get to it in time to actually give you some feedback that makes sense, right? Based on my schedule, what I have to do in grade, right? So, right, it's time consuming. Every time someone asks, "Oh, can you open this for me? Open that?" I gotta go into the system, stop what I'm doing, go in and go mess with Moodle, adjust the dates, and then you could imagine that. Imagine I have a class, everybody's asking for different stuff. Can I get week 2 open and this and the quiz? Can I get week 4 open the RD? Can I get? It starts to get very time consuming very quickly, right? And I have, if you know, I'm a chair on 2 different dissertations. So I have a lot of stuff to read, right? I read about 150 pages this weekend, and I just not read, I gotta go in and feedback and give critique. So it's hard for me to get back to, once I've graded it, because it's kind of on my checklist. Okay, I got to grade class, I got to grade this, I got to grade that. Once I get through it, it's really difficult for me to go back to regrade it. But I would encourage you guys to resubmit. And to me, if you resubmit and I look at it real quick and it's good to go, then I'll change the grade. Because to me, that's an important part. It's the initiative. I don't want to deter you or discourage you from not resubmitting, because that's the whole point. You're learning, right? You get it, you didn't do good, okay, can I resubmit it? And a lot of students ask, and I go, yes, resubmit it. And I eventually will get to it. It may not be right then and there, maybe towards the end. You may have to remind me, hey, Dr. Kidd, I resubmitted this, can you regrade it? Right? Okay, you right, I'll regrade it. But yeah, resubmit it, revise it, resubmit it, if you need to, and then go from there, okay?
Grammarly doesn't do a similarity. So Grammarly only does grammar and spelling.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Mhm.
You will see it.
Yeah, it does.
You see KPIs in,
So regarding the returns, it was 16%.
Mhm.
However, when I checked the analysis and downloaded the
Mhm.
file from the parents it was most of them like the acts names, the laws names.
Yeah, so,
The table of contents, like abstract.
right, yeah.
Yeah, so is that.
That's okay. No, that's okay. So I see the score. I just don't go up the raw score. I
Yeah.
see it, but if it's under 10%, I know that it's probably fine. If it's over 10%, there might be some things, right? But I open all of them just to make sure to see what it is that it's highlighted, because it will highlight just in common words, or it'll highlight bibliography. Yeah, that's gonna be there, right? That's not plagiarism. So I'll go in and I look at all of them, and if it's above 10%, but I look at everything, it's the of it, because, no, you're fine, all right? I use common sense. There's common sense here, all right? When I would just don't willy, okay, 50%, 0. No, I gotta look at it, all right? I gotta examine it, but if it's
Proper citation on whatever is
absolutely, yeah.
highlighted. That's
Those
the
are the
big
proper,
key.
yep, those are the proper
That's the big key.
citation,
Cite
right?
it.
Yeah, as long as you have proper citation, you're fine, all right, because it's gonna highlight a quote.
Yeah.
But if you quoted it and you cited it properly,
No harm, no foul.
no harm, no foul, you're good to go, all right? So just pay attention to that. Hopefully everybody's doing okay. I know it's week 6 and, not necessarily late, but, it's kind of later term in the session to ask about the groups and the group dynamics. I know we had some issues earlier. Hopefully I kind of fixed that by establishing the groups myself. So everybody's happy with their group and working well, it seems like so far, except for one group, of course. But, you know, that's the whole point of the group RDs, right? You're gonna be working in collaboration with people, and doesn't, you don't, can't like everybody, and everybody's not gonna like you, right? Everybody, you may be the person in charge of the group, and they may not like your idea, your direction. Guess what? You're in charge. Doesn't matter. When it's your turn to be the boss, you be the boss, we do it your way, right? Or if it's a collaboration, we all have input and we, you know, all have, you know, some say into what the final product is gonna be, right? It can't just be one person dictating, you know, stuff and then turning it in and then calling it the group's work. It doesn't work that way, right? I would not.
He's trying to do that too.
Yeah, that's because she's overachiever. Everybody here is good. Everybody in the class right now, physically, is good to go. I've never had any problem with anybody here. Everybody's been in, except for Christopher. Everybody else is other than my,
That's
my first
because
class, right?
I'm a soulless ginger. that's why-
Everybody else is, my Hannah's been in my class before, and so is Joshua, and it's fine. Nobody's ever a problem, you know. So we don't have any issues there. I just want to give everybody fair warning, you know, as it gets closer to the end of this session, people will start getting alarmed by their grades and start to ask me crazy panic questions, and I don't have time for panic questions, honestly. You know, I want to be available to all the students, but, you know, I email you guys. This has probably been the most intensive email, text, phone call session I've had in a long time. A lot of contact with students, and I don't really need to have a lot of contact with students outside of the classroom. So this session has been somewhat ridiculous in that aspect. All right, so you know, I may seem a little harder on certain things just because I don't have time to have long, lengthy conversations and debate certain things that it's like it's just not any room to debate about things. All right, just get the work done. Everybody else has to do it. I had to do it. Check in the box. Move on. Okay, that's the end of the name of the game. Okay. Let's get it done. Don't reinvent the wheel here. Just get it done. If there's something that is obviously not right on my end, and everybody here has pretty much been, I'm open. You can email me whatever. Hey, Dr. K, this isn't right, or something's wrong here. Hey, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't mind fixing it, saying I'm wrong, and then let's move on. I'm not. It's not personal. Okay. So, just keep that in mind when we're coming up here, short, and in the next, couple weeks, all right? So, but everybody here, like I said, is fine, and reaching out to me, everybody has technical difficulties once here, there, it happens, so need my help, cool, it's just the habitual, nobody here is habitual, so we're good, okay? All right, anything else? No? Zaid, are you on your way? All right, cool. Got you. All right, so this week we're gonna do compensation. There's a shorter brief on labor relations, which I'm gonna ask you guys to kind of take a look at on your own. But this week we're gonna really focus on compensation and really try to tie in compensation and what we kind of did last week, right? Talked about performance management, talked about training, right? And compensation is, kind of goes hand in glove with those two topics because your compensation usually, aside from the initial, hiring, later on the line, training and performance are key components of people's compensation, all right? And then we'll determine whether or not they get more pay or they get promoted and all that kind of stuff, right? And so it's critical that you understand, how do companies, kind of look at compensation? How do they come up with compensation structures and what is kind of inherent of, the things that companies are, gonna pay for, like compensable factors is really what they call them, right? Things that in a job that I need to pay the person for, right? And not everything are compensable factors, right? Like we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago. Just because I do it doesn't necessarily mean I'm getting paid for it, right? It's kind of inherent to the job, right? I don't get paid for writing on the board. I don't get paid for answering text and emails and that kind of thing, right? I don't, that's not something, but I know that it is inherent to the class, right? That's inherent to being a instructor, right? I think they kind of open-minded with that. But companies, when they look at, compensation, they're really trying to figure out what is the kind of the lowest amount of money I can pay someone to do this job, right? And still keep in line within the law and still keep in line with the market. Okay, it's about really retaining my talent in light of all the competitors that are out there that are trying to poach my people, right? And so companies take a really hard look at compensation and how does that compensation, how does that look like in an ROI, right? How does that look like for return on investment from a company standpoint? Right? How do we necessarily justify giving Joshua $500,000? Okay, is Joshua making or bringing in? Is he bringing in $1 million a year? If Joshua bringing in $1 million a year in business, yeah, $500,000 that's a bargain. Cool, because he could technically kind of keep it to himself, right? You know, me man's bringing in $1 million. I'm bringing in everybody's bringing a certain amount of money, right? What does that mean for the company, right? And is that person worth that value to the company? And can we afford it, right? And are there other things that I can give you, right, that are more intrinsic in value, right, and not necessarily tangible, right, that will help you, I guess, get some leverage, as far as like, hey, I'm not gonna give you an extra 10 grand, but I will give you flex hours. I'm not gonna give you, $200,000. I'll give you 150 and an extra week off. Okay, or something to that effect, right? And so companies have different, come on in. Companies have different,
I'm just
yes,
taking a
ma'am.
head count.
Yes, Carol.
1, 2, 3.
I got one more coming, guys. He's
How
late.
many more?
One more.
You got one more.
He's late. I know he's coming up.
He's coming. Okay, if he doesn't come, let me know.
I will.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Oh, actually count two more.
Two more?
Two more. Rad and, yeah, two more.
Okay, if they don't show up, please send me.
I will let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, are we gonna be mad at me? Forgot about him? I would be pissed.
She stays on it, cause
Carol's not paying. The thing is that the accreditation, well, the school just
it's the
got bought.
I-9 too.
Yeah, the I-9, the school just got bought, and the folks that bought it, they're an international school, they're a global school. So they adhere to all kind of the global accreditation factors, right? And so the one specific to here, especially with the I-9 immigration, they're kind of tired. It all is in this whole immigration thing, all of it, right? School used to be the one sanctuary where they would just, you want to come to school here? No problem. Yeah, I don't care where you're from. Let's go. Just that'd be the path. But they realize that it's getting saturated and people are coming to school but not going to school. Right? They come in and they disappear.
Yeah,
You
that
never
was-
see them again.
That was when I worked here, like I said before, there was a school in like Little Italy that was allegedly a school and no students ever went to class, but they were all there on I-9. They got
Yeah,
shut down.
that's
And that was, no, this was like 10 years ago.
Oh.
That was,
it's still there. It's changed though. It changed names, yeah.
yeah. but
Goodwin
they-
bought the school. Goodwin bought that school. Yeah, we bought that school. So, but anyway, that's basically what it boiled down to. So the accreditation and coming down and just making sure everybody's being held to this fire, because if you don't, the accreditors are basically shutting schools down. They will shut the school down, and you don't want that, right? You don't want the school to shut down, because if you shut down the school, then your degree's pretty much worthless, honestly, right? We know you went through the program, but when you go to an employer, and especially if you go to you go to a national school, right? So what accreditation works is there's regional and there's national accreditation, right? We are national accreditation, right? And it's reverse of what you would think. National is the lower one, regional is the higher one, right? So if you're in a national school, your accreditation is not as strong. If you're the regional school, your accreditation is strong. So all the Division I schools are all regional. Harvard and all the other schools, they're all regional, right? And it's all about the research that you do at the school. They're tiered. It's a whole process within the academic education system of how they tier the school. So, either way, So when it comes down to compensation, we're trying to not only, you know, pay people fairly, but we're trying to make sure we attract the right type of talent, right? We're trying to make sure that people want to come work for us, okay? And that we compensate them fairly because there's a lot of choices, options out there. Really, if you have a desirable skill set, there are a lot of people willing to hire you for the money you want, right? Because they see the value that you bring. And so if you bring in a certain type of value, they don't mind shelling out a couple dollars extra. That's why I was saying early on in the session that when you go to a job interview, you should always counter, right? If they give you a compensation, that's great, right? Even if it was something you wasn't expecting. Inside, you might be like, oh, Jesus, that's a nice number, right? You still counter, okay? It could be a nicer number, okay? Because they have a nicer number in mind, right? Just a matter of you have to ask. If you don't ask, guess what? Then I will give it to you, right? This doesn't work that way because that money can be used elsewhere, right? That money can go to CEO. That money can go to anybody else, right? It can go towards projects. It can go to stupid stuff, right? But at the end of the day, really it's about, the best bang for the buck. Who can I get, right? On the cheap, that's gonna bring value to the company, and that'll be able to make money off it, okay? All right, so some direct compensation things we got, right? Wages and salary, right? Base pay and incentive. So this, people are mostly familiar with that, right? You have a pay that is your standard, it's not going anywhere. That's your base pay that you start from. And then you have incentives on top of that. That could be anywhere from, depending on what job you have. You're in sales, I like to use sales because sales is always interesting on how they structure their pay or compensation. Some companies will give you, a very low base rate and then you work on commission. Right? Some companies set it up and make it beneficial for everyone. Because what's really, what's the thing about compensation that is useful for the company? What's the company use compensation for? Aside from hiring, folks, right? Aside from recruiting, what's one of the major things about compensation and incentives and benefits?
To make sure that the resources are optimized and the employees are motivated.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
they don't have to be involved. And
Okay.
it's gonna be automated process.
Yeah. So important thing. Aside from the conversation, we all, and I think that in us that we want to be better, right? If that wasn't the case, we wouldn't get and jump into $1 million job. You may turn around and think on that.
Show up the class and you break.
What's going on here? Here. Okay, we doing. Everything's been glitchy this week. Okay, so base pay incentives, right? And then you got indirect compensation, right? things are legally required benefits and an option, right? So some of the legally required things that we have here in the United States that other countries don't have. Social Security, right, is one of them. Medicaid, Medicare, whatever that is. FICA, right? Some of these things that we have in the United States, a lot of countries don't have, right? Because most countries, not most, a lot of countries are not in the business of supporting their citizens. Okay? Most countries, the mindset is that you work, you manage your own finances, we're not gonna get involved, and whatever you have at the end is on you, right? You can't go to some countries and say, I need welfare, I need aid. We don't got it. It's just not how they roll, right? So United States, in order to supplement that, right, they collect taxes from everybody, right? As a group, we're going to support the elderly. We're going to support our retirements, right? Granted, Social Security is kind of dwindling and they're kind of trying to fix that, right? But that, does anybody know when Social Security happened? When did Social Security, FICA, and all these other things? When did that happen? Is anybody familiar? If you're not, I don't expect
Security
you.
happened during the New Deal.
The New Deal,
Back in,
right?
was that the?
45, 47, right after World War II, right? FDR.
That was the New Deal.
Yeah, FDR, right? So Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the president during World War II. And the military guys were coming back. The nation was really strapped for cash because we've just been in this conflict for a long time and people were really struggling. And so in order to kind of boost the economy, he decided, you know what, I'm going to create some kind of tax stream so that we can support these older folks, these folks that are coming back from combat that can't work, right? Missing limbs or broke or just, mentally not there, right? How are they supposed to survive? We just sent them off to war. They come back and now we're just gonna leave them on the streets? No. So he didn't like that idea. And he himself, for that didn't know, he had what, polio? Yeah, polio. Yeah, polio. He was in a wheelchair a lot of times as the president. No, he didn't know that. He really couldn't walk. Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Not a question, but it's just a description.
Mhm.
So certain countries that don't focus more on their citizens in terms of giving them the benefits like FICA or
Mhm.
Social Security or whatever, they don't have higher taxes.
Right.
So because they're not making enough from them, they're
Right.
leaving it on them, so they
Mhm.
don't give them any benefits.
Right.
But, most of the Europe, they have taxes about 45%.
Yeah.
If you average it out.
Mhm.
And it goes as high as 55%
Yeah.
in some countries. In Canada also, it's about 41%.
Mhm.
UK it's 40%,
Right.
but in the United States it's about 23. Bracket goes high
Yeah.
at 35 something.
Right, 37, 30, yeah. So it again depends on your industry, but you're right. So some countries have a flat rate. No matter what, how much money you make, is how much you're paying. You're gonna pay 40, 50% tax. United States, we have a bracket system where, okay, depending on how much you make, you have to pay, a portion of that, relative to your income.
And the thing is, the countries that have higher taxes, they are the ones who are being developed more compared to the others. So
Right.
the countries that are not being developed as much as the others are is because they have lower taxes. So the government cannot make enough money for
Right.
for their progress.
But what else do you think is a factor in that? Is it just because they're collecting higher taxes?
No, it's corruption.
Okay, all right. But why do you think that the countries that are collecting the higher taxes are developing more than the countries that aren't necessarily collecting the higher
So
taxes?
it's also about the ideology. So capitalist versus socialist
Mhm.
economies. So most of the Western Europe or whatever is, socialist. They don't
Right.
focus more on capitalism as the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So even though we take more taxes, we show what we're developing, and at the end of the day, or when you retire, you're
Okay.
making this, so you won't be left by yourself. You will have social
Got you.
security.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. Anybody else want to comment?
Part of it is population.
Yeah.
Because we have a much larger population than all of the small
Mhm.
countries over there, so population is one big
Yeah.
driver factor. A lot of the Western European countries aren't socialist. Their leaders will get up there and say, we are not a socialist country. We are a capitalist country who has safety nets and social programs. So they're not socialist, they're very capitalistic. Because I know, like, they always talk about Denmark being a socialist utopia, and their leader came out and flat out said, we're not a socialist company. We're a capitalist company who provides social kind of safety nets or social programs, but we're not socialist. Socialist is very different.
It's a
Yeah.
mixed economy in a way.
Yeah.
Well, we're a mixed economy.
But
I I have issue with, the population you mentioned. Africa, I mean, Nigeria, specifically Nigeria is like times 5 of the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
And yet, UK is a developed country, while Nigeria is a developing country. So, Nigeria is not flat rate, but it's not too big, like it depends on what you can. Like a level 8 officer will be paying like 8 point something %. While the 14 thereabout and above will be paying like 10, 15, percent, and depends on where you are working for government or private sector. Now, where I'm bringing this, you talk about corruption, even if it is 5 naira, people will still take it, and if it is, I mean, I said $5, people will take it, and if it is $500, people will still take it. So it's not about corruption, it's about developed country that is structured, that is programmed, that they follow. But here, it's still like staggering. We don't know where we are going with. So that's the problem. So, but I don't think it's population wise. I'm just thinking.
Cost-wise, population has a big, like when you're comparing the Western European countries to America, like when they say, well, they can pay for daycare for all of the kids in Sweden.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a very small number compared to what that would be in the United States. That's where the population comes in. So when you're talking about a program for a certain group, because the US has over 360 million now or something like that, around 360 million people as opposed to 10 million. When you have to scale up, a program that works in Sweden can't work in here because of scale. That's where that comes, that's where the population comes into play. It's not because we have just more people in general, it's because the more people in general causes larger sums that would have to go into those types of programs. That's where a lot of that comes in.
No, maybe the diversity too.
Of what, diversity, which
Because
one?
of the populations, like so many people.
Absolutely.
Different-
You mean here?
Because when they were comparing for like Sweden,
Mhm.
people are more like, how you say, like the one homogeneous.
Homogeneous,
Homogeneous.
yeah, homogeneous. Yeah, most,
And here it's like that program.
yeah, heterogeneous, yeah. So
We have a
that,
lot of overlapping programs too, where we could get rid of some of the redundancies.
yeah, we do. I mean, that's a good point that I'm making, that the diversity and the immigration, plays a role, because when you go to a place that you're not familiar with, you need help, you need assistance, and where do you get that from? The government, right? Because you don't know anybody, right? The government is the only neutral party that's going to say, hey, we know you got here from another country, you probably don't speak that language very well, we're gonna give you some assistance to help you out, right? Most countries don't necessarily do that, right? They don't say, hey, we're gonna give you some money because you're here from the United States and we know you're having a hard time. They don't do that. That's the one thing with diversity. The other thing is that resources, right? And which doesn't really get accounted for. When you talk about globally, you have to look at each country's resources and what their export imports are, right? And what it is that really drives the country, okay? If you look at the Caribbean, right, and you have my whole family's pretty much Caribbean, right? Haitian, Jamaican, Trinidadian, right? You got Dominican Republic. If you look at Haiti specifically, that island of Hispaniola, one side Dominican Republic, one side Haiti. Dominican Republic isn't rich by any means, way better than Haiti though, okay? And it's because what goes on down in the Caribbean? What drives the economy down there? Tourism, right? Tourism drives the economy. Whereas in Africa, it's not tourism. What drives the economy in Africa?
Natural resources.
Natural resources, right? What drives the economy here?
Combination.
Combination of capitalism drives the economy here, right? The ability to go out and say, you know what, I want to do this, and you can. Yeah, opportunity, right? That's what drives the economy here, right? Sweden, I don't know what drives the economy there. I mean, innovation does it, honestly, in Sweden. right?
So, yeah.
Sweden, Denmark, so that area is Scandinavian, I think innovation really is that thing, right? And also clean energy and just being that word about the ecosystem, and then some of the cleanest, most natural places, but again, that all goes back to lifestyle. That all goes back to how we living our lives, right? What is important to Americans? What is important to Swedish folk? What is important to, Jordanians? What is important to Palestinians? What is important to, Israelites, Africans? What's important, right? If it's money, cars, and house, it's one thing, right? You need a lot of money for that. But if it's just food and just living my life, I really don't need that much money, right? I really don't care about it too much. So that requires less maintenance. That requires less money, less resources in order to really capture that, all right? And so when you start looking globally and trying to figure out, okay, the United States is this way, and I agree, socialism is a very broad term, right?
Mhm.
We don't really have any socialists, in no country that's gonna straight up say I'm so, except for maybe North Korea, China, they're kind of communist socialist sort of, right? And we've seen that doesn't work. Socialism doesn't necessarily work, but that's why we don't necessarily have it, because you have opportunities, you have capitalism, but with social programs, right? We want to be able to help people, right? But we're not gonna just give it to you, right? We're just gonna give it away. Now, United States, we don't have the best track record. We give a lot of stuff away, right? We give a lot of stuff away to everybody, but we can't, right? So that United States can be considered sort of a socialist entity because we're handing stuff out all the time to people that have not contributed, right? Mexicans, come on in. Any immigrant, really. Here you go, all right? We'll help you if you want it, all right? But what I tend to find is that most immigrants, I'm most hardworking people I've met, my parents are immigrants. A lot of my friends, my family, everybody I know is really immigrants, right? They're not necessarily from here, and they work hard, right?
But I believe, Doctor, that each state has its own benefits for the residents, like California, maybe it's more
Yeah.
taxes. However, it's more helpful for, as you said, for immigrants to take like medical benefits like insurance and
Right.
yeah. My sister lives in Texas. She's telling me that her daughters are not eligible for Medicaid.
Yeah.
However, if she was here, it's easy for her to apply for her kids to have like.
Why you think they don't have it in Texas?
I don't know what's the reason. She's telling me, okay, maybe you are, me and Tariq are living in a very expensive state. However, it's more beneficial for us because we can take benefits or something from the government. I don't know.
Right. Anybody
One
know
of the
why?
reasons-
Why
because
Texas
there's-
doesn't have
One of
it?
the reasons is because there's no state income tax.
There's no state tax.
Oh, really?
No state tax.
Yeah, okay.
Florida, Texas,
They don't pay tax?
Ohio, they don't pay state tax.
Yeah, they
They
don't
pay
have a
federal
state
tax,
tax.
they don't pay
State
state
Yeah,
tax.
Seven states don't have a state.
Right,
No, there's
So-
7 states that
So
are.
the benefits
Yes.
are different from each state than
Right.
the other.
because if I don't have that money coming in, I can't provide that service, right?
Okay.
California has state tax, probably one of the highest state taxes aside from New
Very
York.
No, it's higher than
Is
New
it-
York.
yeah.
The top is.
Yeah,
So
so,
that is New York?
No, the top is here at 13.1.
yeah, I think New York is 10 or 11, something
Yeah.
like that, right?
Here it's 13.1.
But they have state taxes, and so if you have the more money coming in, you can do different things. That's why certain states don't offer those things. You're like, oh, that's why people hop around states. They want to do certain things. I want Medicare, like for my parents. My
Yeah.
parents are elderly, so they want Medicare. They're in Florida. They don't pay state taxes, so the Medicare Blue Shield is crappy down there. So my her address of record is here in California.
But they live there.
Yeah, she comes here for 6 months, and then she'll go back to Florida and that kind of thing. But here it's very robust because they collect all these taxes from me and us,
Even
right?
the quality of that is very impressive.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, I don't know about the quality. That's a little different
No,
story.
because last year when I delivered my first baby,
Uh-huh.
I was paying for myself only 500 per month, only for my insurance. Nowadays I applied for like medical in 2024 and I was eligible in that time.
Okay,
And everything was okay.
okay,
Yeah.
well, that's good. Okay.
I just didn't hear on two things, I'm fine.
Yeah.
So there's a thing called overall tax burden.
Mhm.
So even though some states don't have state income tax, some don't have, sales tax.
Yeah.
But overall, when it comes out, all the taxes added together and based on the economy and, the money that they make, at the end, there's a tax burden calculated.
Yeah.
And the southern belt is pretty much, they have lower tax burden like Arizona. That's why all the retirees, they go to Arizona, Florida, Nevada.
But how do they make that up?
Property taxes.
Property taxes,
Because
right?
property taxes in Texas are
Outrageous.
high.
Yeah, like,
You can buy a nice big house in Texas for $250,000, 5, 6 bedroom pool, 4,000 square feet, all that stuff.
So
Wait till you get the
that's why-
property tax bill.
that's why in Texas, there are larger property,
Yeah.
land, but there's smaller properties.
Yeah,
compared
so
to
property, yeah,
California.
yeah. So they make the money up some in other ways, right? And so even still, with compensation, when companies, are really, paying out the money, they still have to pay federal taxes, right? They still have to pay federal payroll taxes on any money they pay to an employee. So it still is a matter of importance to them as to how much they pay out each person, and in what way do they pay those out, right? If you get, commission and just your base salary are taxed differently, right? Bonuses, they're taxed differently, right? If you were to win the lottery, right, in California, what's the tax rate on the lottery?
Well, I mean, the federal would be 33 and then it'd be 13.1
Right, the federal rate.
over, but yeah, the way it graduates, it's over a certain amount, then
Yeah,
it
more
hits that
than
top.
40%.
Right, but the point is that they're all taxed differently, right? Your commission's taxed differently than your base pay, your bonuses are taxed differently than your base pay, right? Any winnings, gambling winnings, that kind of thing, those things are taxed higher at a higher rate than your base, what you get paid as your occupation, right? Or for your occupation, for your job, right? And so all those things play a role when companies are looking at taxes, right? And how do I pay my employees, right? And what can I write off this year? Or what can I hold on to and gradually write off, right? To offset any other liabilities I have, right? So taxes and compensation are another tool that companies use to really keep their liabilities at bay and to manage them pretty well, because you can do a lot of funky stuff with taxes and kind of say, okay, we're not gonna itemize this, or we're not gonna depreciate this, or we're not gonna take a credit for this year. We're gonna save it for next year, because next year we know we have to pay out $20 million because we got sued for such and such, right? And so we're gonna defer that and we're gonna push it till next year, right? So you can do different things.
So, I don't know how, but whatever you make from the lotteries, how do you, report it on taxes? So sometimes, they give you W-2, so how would you get the W-2?
1099.
Yeah, it's a ten
So
ninety-nine.
it's a, forget which 1099 it is, but it's a 1099, and 1099 means that you haven't paid into the federal tax, you haven't paid into the tax system when you're 1099, so the rate is at 33% generally on everything with that. That's where that number comes out from.
Yeah.
Like I worked last year for like 5.5 months for a nonprofit and I got 1099. So once I get that income, I haven't paid taxes.
So we
And
start
then
with-
that wraps up
Yeah.
into your total income, like it goes into your total income for the year. And then obviously the standard deduction comes out and then whatever taxes you paid in come out as well and it all balances. But I haven't paid taxes on that 1099 work that I did during the first half of last year. So when I get that, it comes in.
And it's categorized different for the state, right? When you win the lottery, because there's certain stipulations that go with lotteries, right? Lotteries were really designed for the education system, right? The whole point was that, hey, people are gonna put in $1, and the money was supposed to go straight into education. It's supposed to be 100% on education, and then it slowly turned to
No, the
Say
Florida, so I know the
50,
Florida lottery.
40, 30, 20, the next 5%, and 1%. It's just
No,
ridiculous.
the way they did it in Florida lottery
Mm.
is that if you bought a ticket for $1, they took $1 out of the education fund and put that $1 into the education fund. So they were
Repeated pay part.
they were robbing, yeah,
It's a zero
instead of
sum
it-
game.
instead of being $2 in education, it was
Right.
still $1 in education.
Yeah, that's what the lottery was really designed for. It wasn't designed because the government loves gambling. No, it was designed because the education system was falling apart. And of course, one of the things that, I don't know about any other country, but the United States is notorious for, we want this, but we don't want to pay for it.
Right.
I want to pay here. So how can we find other mechanisms in which we can supplement the pay, right? Oh, well, we don't want to spend $1 million in education, but we'll spend $1 million on a bomb or bullets or whatever the case may be, okay? And so we need to take that lottery money, and guess what? We're gonna bring that lottery money in and put it in education, right? And once you get into education, or once you get to the Department of Ed, wherever it, however it gets in the system, it's divvied up in 80 different million ways that have nothing to do with education. So,
Wait, so the lottery here is a state?
Yeah.
Not private?
no, it's a state, yeah, each state has their own thing, and there's a there's a
Like
federal,
I thought
there's a
the
federal
local-
mandate sort of, right? There's a federal statute on lottery in general, and each state, not every state has a lottery. Not all states have lottery.
I swear I thought it's private company.
Hmm.
Like-
No, no.
No, the private company ones are like the Publishers Clearinghouse.
Right, stuff like that,
Stuff
yeah.
like that. Those are private companies.
Mega Millions,
Mega Millions, those are all
Powerball.
the different states have
Right.
now combined to
Combined,
do the
yeah.
Mega Millions and the
Yep.
Powerball.
those are not,
So
yeah,
they're pooling all their resources in.
yeah, they elect a commissioner. And that person is elected and, okay, you're gonna run it, and guess what, you got your 4-year, tenure, and then next, we elect someone new to run it, yeah, it's not. All right, compensation system, all right, so, like I said, direct, indirect, right, base pay, pretty simple, and incentive pay. One of the things about the incentive pay, right, profit sharing, stock options, and we'll get to this in a little bit. One of the key always comes up when you talk about CEO or executive compensation, right? Oh, Bob Eisner or Iger, whatever his name is, made $50 million last year. Okay, you have to really break that down and see what it is that, how did he make it? Okay, for most parts, the CEOs typically get a base salary of whatever, $10 million. And then everything else is attached to some kind of incentive, be it stock incentive, warrant, stock option, whatever the case may be. And that anchors their contract. And so really the premise is that you are vested in, right? So if the company does well, you do well. If the company does poorly, you do poorly, right? And so that serves as a motivation for the CEOs to really be progressive and not to just sit around like, okay, I get $10 million a year. I'm gonna sit on my butt, fly on a private jet, hang out, and go talk to Mickey Mouse or whatever, and eat some cheese and I'm good, right? No, it doesn't work that way. So the stock options are an important aspect of senior usually. And when you go into a company, depending on what type of company it is, it will be part of your compensation package, right? Especially you start getting to over 150, 200,000, 250, right? They're gonna throw some stock options at you. And I always advise to take the stock options, okay? Because those stock options will grow and you won't pay attention to them. And next thing you know, you got $1 million worth of stock options, because you can buy them cheap. You buy them at par value, really, right? And so when you buy them at par, you're really buying it at the internal price, not at the external price, right? You're not buying it with the public price. So if you see Google for $50, which I know it's not, but if you see $50 on the stock market, it's $25 internally. Okay, maybe 10 even. It depends on what the par value is for the individual stockholder. So you get to accumulate a whole bunch of it cheaply, and then as the company does good and it goes up in the stock market, you can cash out at that particular value.
Yeah, because the company has a clear plan. All they need is funding. So how about just reducing the payouts in a way,
Yeah,
invest in the
Yeah.
company?
I mean, the compensation, again, payroll is about 70% of the cost, operating costs, right? And so you have to find a way in which to kind of, amortize that over a certain period of time, right? Kind of like your mortgage. When you buy a house for $500,000, I'm not expecting you to pay me $500,000 next year, right? You're gonna pay $2,000, $3,000 a month for the next 25, 30 years, right? And then, the debt is spread out. It's the same for a company. The company do not want to pay out a bunch of money all at once for nothing, right? Why would I pay you now when I could probably pay you later? Right? I don't want to pay you now because I can use that liquid cash to do something else. I can use that for projects and and I can use that money and invest it. By paying you, I can make what I owe plus my principal. right? If I gotta pay out $10 million, I say, you know what, I'm gonna defer that. I'm gonna put this over here. It's gonna make me $10 million in interest. I could use that $10 million in interest, pay that, and I'm gonna keep the 10 million principal. I win, right? It's a winning, kind of formula. And so a lot of companies do that, right? So indirect, you got, Social Security that we talked about, workman's comp, which I don't know if a lot of countries have workman's comp. You got workman's compensation?
No?
So if you get hurt on the job and you can't work and it's something that you happen at work, there's something, you can file for workman's compensation. So basically, they will give you a certain percentage of your pay for a certain period of time until they adjudicate and figure out, okay, what happened? Was it the company's fault? Was it your fault? Whatever the case may be. And then from there, they'll figure out, okay, what the long-term solution is. But it's kind of a,
About 2/3.
yeah, 2/3.
About
Yeah,
66% of what you're paying.
yeah. You
No,
know,
no, I'm in it.
something else? Okay. Yeah. I didn't mean to put.
No, no, no.
Tell me about that.
No, yeah. No, I
So-
actually got a fight with SDI because they
Okay.
said I get, because of my work, whatever, but yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm not on workman's comp.
Okay.
Because it's not a work related.
Moving in.
But mostly like Sherry's and those people have
Who?
Sherry's and police and the work compensation.
And most people
No,
have workman's
everybody
comp.
has.
Yeah, everybody
Yeah,
has
workman's comp is
Yeah.
a federal program,
Yeah.
and then there's also state programs. but
As long as you
it's
have 15 or more people, you have workman's comp. Yeah. So if I were to come out here and I would slip and
not-
hurt my back
Don't
and
don't
fall,
slip and fall.
yeah, it'd be hard to explain that one on carpet, but slip and fall, hurt my back, I could say, hey, it happened at work, I need workman's comp. I put a file,
File a claim.
file a claim, and then go, okay, well, you get 66% or whatever your salary, average salary is for the last year, whatever the case may be. And then they figure out, okay, was it my fault, the carpet's fault, school's fault, whatever, and then after that, they decide whether it's gonna be a long-term, because it's short-term comp, workman's comp, and it's long-term workman's comp, two different things. And so after they do the short-term, just to cover you for the interim, after that's done and they kind of figure out what happened, then you'll be awarded long-term compensation, which goes on as long as the company's up and running. And so most companies will, they'll keep tabs on you,
Then you can do SSDI or.
Yeah,
SSI.
SSDI. which is kind of a social security supplemental, which is,
Disability insurance.
yeah, there's a whole bunch of different stuff. So, but again, when we're talking about indirect compensation, this is where really the majority of employees really see value. Okay, what else out of this list are you gonna give me? I know I'm gonna get this. I may get some of this, but I really care about this. Okay, I really care about the insurance.
IRAs, Roth IRAs.
Right, all right, contribution, right? You matching 401k, right? And as we see now, retirements, we had in the military, right? I'm told Christopher, we're part of this whole old school system where you did a certain amount of time, you got a retirement, or you get a retirement, right? And so as time has gone on, and you see it in most industries, it becomes very, very unsustainable. It's become too expensive, right? Because now what I'm waiting for is for you to die, basically, before I can get you off my books. Okay, so if you live to 100, guess what? I'm paying you out this retirement every month till you're 100, or however we get paid, right? So Christopher and I, till I die, the government is gonna send me a check. Because I did so many years in the military, so did Christopher, right? We retired as military members of our career. So they owe us a check every month.
How many years needs to be in Navy to be eligible for retirement?
20 years is traditional, but sometimes that special programs you can do 15 at a reduced retirement rate. But 20 years for the military, once you do 20 years, then you become retirement eligible, and you get 50% of your pay.
Right.
And
Every
for-
month,
Every month, yeah.
until you die.
Till I die.
Yeah, so I get, out of my high three, I get 56.25% out of my highest 3 years of pay.
Oh, you have the highest.
Yeah. So every year after 20, and it doesn't work the same everywhere, right? This is just military. Every year after 20, you get 2.5% added to the 50.
Yeah.
So if you do, like I did 21, almost 22 years, I got an extra, 5%, to just say from math.
Yeah, you're probably at 50.
Some about 55%.
55.
Yeah, 55% of my base pay at the rank that I was at.
So how long do you have to be in the highest rank to be that?
So it doesn't,
Yeah, it
the
doesn't-
high
that
doesn't,
doesn't-
it does, it's the highest 3 years of pay.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
if,
so it's
like, for me, I had 2 years of pay as a chief warrant officer 3 and 1 year of pay as a chief warrant officer 2. Well, 2.5 years as a 3.5 years of 2. That's how it works. for me.
Yep, take the average. Yeah, they take the average of your 3 highest years, and whatever that is, you get 56 or whatever,
Yeah, I
55%
understand.
of that, right? So and it varies, and then, as you grow up, you make more money, and, people that are senior, they get more, but it's the same thing across the board. They get the same rate, sort of, based on the number of years they, put in, right? But this is, honestly, when it comes to compensation, this is probably the most unpredictable, most variance, right? It's not a fixed variable, okay? It's fixed in the sense that I don't have to pay it, but it varies in how much it is every year, because my health insurance could be something totally different every year, right? If I have 100 people in the company and 10 people, 10% get cancer, right? In 2023, it's gonna cost a certain amount of money, but let's say 2024, only 5 people get cancer, right? That's less of a debt for me, right? It's less of a liability. So these fluctuate, right? And so they have a budget kind of that they determine, forecasting wise on, hey, the past 10 years has been this. Okay, well, we're gonna go with this number right here, right? But these things are expensive for a company because in many instances, the government either supplements that for the company, okay? And so as we start looking at, compensation in light of AI and all this technology, right? The government is starting to think about, okay, how do we help companies help people, right? Because not all of us are going to be able to integrate into the AI, machine learning, super high tech world, right? And some of us are gonna fall out. Some of us are at a certain age where it's like, it doesn't make any sense to, my parents, he has 80 something, he's not gonna get an AI job because he can't receive AI, right? But at the same time, if he wants to work and he wants to make money, right, to live, how do we do that, right? And so the government is saying, okay, look, we have to supplement some of this stuff, right? But the way they supplement it is that they tell companies like, look, you're getting rid of all these things, and you're not paying these people any money to do their job anymore, right? You have a computer, you have a AI, you got some machine doing, right? So guess what? You're gonna give us 50% of that $1 million you just saved on payroll to a pot of money, right? Kind of like Social Security, sort of, right? But this is more geared toward making sure that they have supplemental funds in order to give out to people who don't necessarily integrate into the whole technology world, right? And go back to what we talking about, UBI, remember the first, I think maybe just you and I talking about that, right? The concept of UBI, which is Universal Basic Income, okay? Been around since the 50s and 60s, but the notion is that everybody will get a certain amount of money from the government, no matter what, okay? Every month you get a $2,000 check from the government, and that's supposed to help you live your life, right? And it will change based on the state you live in and the cost of living, really, right? Which is really a bad idea, but, that's the only way to do it fairly, really, is to adjust for cost of living, right? And so companies have to give up some of this, stuff because they have to match all this in addition to the government matching also, right? Putting in some money, right? The government's not going to, be like, oh yeah, we got $1 million here, you just take it. The government's gonna come back to us as the people and say, hey, give us money so we can hold it for you for later. Okay, that's basically what it is. The government's a holding, it's an escrow account. The government doesn't generate any, they do, sort of. But at the end of the day, they're holding the money and they're basically saying, look, we need more money from you. That's what taxes are. We need your money so we can do things that will support the common good, right? That support everyone. So, having all these particular things, companies really look at it and scrutinize and say, you know what, how can we make sure that we, maximize our compensation, right? we want to pay people, we want to make sure that they're compensated fairly, but we also need to make sure that we are, we are liquid, right? That we have cash in the bank and that we don't, get into a situation where we can't pay our bills, right? Based on the fact that we're paying, 70% of our revenue and our profit to payroll. Right? That's not what we want, right? All right. So let's talk about the equity theory, okay? So basically, when we talk about the equity theory, it really is an individual or self thing, right? How much do you think I'm worth? How much do you think you're worth? Okay? I believe that I'm getting paid fairly for the work I'm doing, right? And it could be more than just the work, it could be more like the value I bring to the company. Because there are many things that you do at your job that aren't necessarily, seen or aren't, statistical in nature. It can't be measured per se, right? There might be, someone might go to work and you might be that person that everybody just starts to come talk to, right? You're the motivator, right? Last time I checked, no one gets paid for motivation, right? No one gets paid being the motivator.
David,
Well,
David, what, Coggins or whatever his name is?
oh, yeah,
Jocko Willink.
yeah. I mean, that's different, but
Tony Robbins.
right, Tony Robbins, those guys, they're motivational speakers, but in general, what is your self-worth, right? In your own mind, right? And does that line up with what the company is thinking, right? And so there's this equity theory where we look at, okay, I'm putting in this much, what am I getting out? All right? I think I'm worth $100. The company might think I'm worth 80. Okay? Do those two things add up for me, right? Generally, no, because everyone always wants more. They always think they're worth more than they really are, as far as the market is. And no, this is the thing. When we talk about this, we have to make sure that we remember that the market is what is dictating everything, not an individual, right? It's the market, right? The market is just nebulous entity that we all live in, right? And we operate in. Whatever the market calls for is what is controlling or dictating or pushing things around. It's not an individual saying, oh, you should just pay him 50,000 because that's the number I like. No, it's the markets, everyone else and what they're doing, right? And the other things that are playing a role in it, either lack of jobs or lack of, skilled individuals, right? What's the labor market looking like? If I have a shortage in a particular industry, right, and there's like maybe, 20 ophthalmologists, whatever, neuro-ophthalmologists, right? That's a very small market, right? It's a very small population of those guys or gals that I can pick from, right? So guess what? Their pay is going to be really, really high, right? Because it's scarce, okay? We call low density, high demand sort of type job, right? Where there's not too many of you guys. Compensation in a hospital is extremely fascinating because you see the different levels of how doctors get paid, right? You see how much the general practitioner and a doctor in a hospital makes as compared to the cardiothoracic surgeon or the orthopedic surgeon or pediatrics. Those guys make so much money, or the anesthesiologist, right? Anybody know how much the anesthesiologist makes?
A lot.
It's 300,000.
How much?
300,000.
Oh, that's a bargain. They make about $600,000 starting. Fresh out of school, don't know anything, no penicillin from, I don't know, oxygen, and that's how much they make. But the risk
Yeah.
that go with that job, one day you're here, the next day you're in jail. Exactly, you're in prison. Yep.
You heal someone.
And it's happened. It happens quite often, right? And then the other thing is that the
I
hospital.
can't have surgery again soon.
I'm sorry. I mean, those guys. I've only known one. I've only known like 3 anesthesiologists. I've known one that actually was like a total goof off. And he was smart. He just goofed off a lot. So he got himself in trouble. He didn't go to prison, but he definitely is not an anesthesiologist anymore. Not in a big hospital, right? And so you have to kind of look at, okay, what am I worth? What value am I bringing to the hospital, right? Because guess what? What can't you do without an anesthesiologist?
Surgery.
can't do surgery.
Mhm.
You cannot, by law. If you don't have anesthesiologist, you can't do anything. The doctor can't walk in the surgery room. He can't look at you. She can't talk to you. Nothing, right? The anesthesiologist has to come in, talk to you, make sure everything is good. We're gonna give you this. Are you allergic to it? Not okay. What did you add to eat? Right? That's why they tell you don't eat, don't drink, don't do anything because all that stuff is interacts and they have to know all that. And so because of that, guess what? No surgery, anesthesiologist is on his way and he gets into an accident. We gotta wait for an anesthesiologist, whoever that is. Okay, and when they get here, we'll start surgery, but until then, my hands are tied. Okay, and so when you have those kind of jobs, they come with a really high premium for the hospital, right? In cost as far as compensation is related, is concerned, but that person also has to look at themselves and go, okay, what am I worth, right? What am I contributing to the organization, right? And am I worth it? Am I worth that? And most people are gonna say yes, they were. Right? I don't know anybody that's not gonna say they're not worth that kind of money, all right? All right, so things that go into kind of the equity theory and really looking at your perception of fairness, right? Internal equity, external and individual equity, right? All play a role into how things are perceived as far as like, is the organization being fair to you? Are you being fair to yourself? Okay, and then looking at, okay, how do those things impact these other categories of work, right? Job satisfaction, right? Job engagement, okay? Motivation, commitment, performance, right? How does my perception of how I'm getting treated influence these particular things for me, right? Because if I feel like I'm not getting treated fairly, guess what? I'm only gonna do 80% today. I'm only gonna do 7% today. I'm gonna walk in because I'm not getting treated fairly. At least I don't think so. Guess what? Today you guys are gonna do group activity and just pick whatever you want to talk about today. I'm gonna be sitting here. I'm gonna be checking the internet out. Okay? Because I don't feel like I'm getting paid for the work that I'm doing. Right? And so my perception of fairness is like the school's not being fair to me. Right? So because of that, I'm not motivated to come in here and teach. I'm not committed to you guys, right? My performance is lackluster. Just coming and like Dr. Kino just comes in every day, he just kind of sits around and we talk about, I don't know, the internet and Google and I didn't really learn much, then that's what kind of happens, right? And it presents itself differently in different jobs. Some jobs, you can see it right away. Other jobs, it's a little more subtle and you really have to depend on the person's intrinsic value, intrinsic motivation, right? Because money doesn't always give you that sense of I'm being treated fairly. Sometimes it's the fact that yes, I'm the only person that can help these people, right? If I'm a surgeon or if I'm, something that's instrumental or pivotal, if you're the only one that can do this surgery, then there's some intrinsic value there, right? That makes you feel good, right? Now, you don't want to go too far with the God complex, but at the end of the day, I'm not getting paid as much, but I feel good about myself. So that's compensation enough, right? This is where they tell people, hey, there's a big difference in a job and a career, right? Or if you find something that you love, a passion, you never really work, all right? Because you put your heart into it. It's not about the money, it's about the work. It's about what you're doing, right? It's not about, and especially in teaching, not for me per se, but at the lower level, when you talk about teachers at kindergarten, first grade, middle school, right? 7th to 8th graders, teenagers, right? Imagine you're a teacher for them. Those kids are crazy, all right? But they don't get paid like that. They don't get paid. Teachers don't get paid a lot of money, right? The compensation for them is the fact that they see these kids grow up and they see them doing well, and that they can influence their thinking. They can influence their mindset. You literally change a person's life by being a teacher, right? And they were going this way, and now they're going this way, right? And it's instrumental. And you find that most people that's successful, they've had one or two teachers that they remember very vividly that had a huge impact on their life. Meanwhile, the teachers are home eating ramen noodles, struggling 2, 3 jobs because they don't get paid enough, right? And most teachers are like that in the United States. Till they get to a little more senior level, 10, 15 years in the teaching, and then they start to make a little bit more money. So it depends on the state too, and if you go to charter and all that stuff. But you know, the perception of fairness is definitely, an important aspect and it influences your commitment, performance and motivation.
It's 6:45.
Oh, okay.
You always want us to
Yes,
let
I
you know.
appreciate it. Okay, let's take a quick, 10 minutes and then come back. Okay. I also got, and she didn't get up and go get no coffee or nothing.
No,
Oh,
what, should I go?
yes, you can go. Yes, you should go.
We'll
I
get
have
coffee.
to go.
Yeah, you can go.
We'll get coffee.
No coffee, then I cannot.
Coffee, whatever you get, whatever you use or get, keep yourself going. Oh my goodness. Oh,
The light here is so strong, you know.
with that,
The lights are so strong.
you think so?
Mhm.
You can,
It's fine. Just problem.
I'm glad it's not here.
I'm surprised.
He was on the Zoom last night, we did. Marceline was on there too, so.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We're, we're good on all that now.
Good.
She said she has issues with her school email.
Traffic. 606.
Dr. Case,
Yes.
I just arrived. I'm not sure the gate is open. Can someone open the gate for me? The traffic was terrible. I almost gave up to. It's the worst traffic of my life today.
I know it was pretty bad when I was coming in.
Yeah, it's
All right.
really tough. I'll be there. Thanks.
Okay.
Now they're floating a $50 minimum wage again.
$50
$50 minimum wage.
for who?
California. That's back with, what's her name? Barbara Lee.
50?
Yeah. Every study says that raising the minimum wage only hurts the bottom. It doesn't. That's all it hurts.
It hurts the bottom because those folks that are getting $15 or $9 are getting the minimum wage, they're in minimum wage jobs. They're not getting they're not bringing anything that's worth $50 an hour.
No, even 20. Yeah.
So they won't get those jobs. That's the problem. Oh well, there you go.
Oh my God, baby.
Oh, glad to see you.
Welcome.
For motivation.
All right, so let's look at, continue on the equity theory and kind of what it looks like internally. And so one of the things that doesn't happen as much as often, at least I don't think, right? Is really, when you look at what you're bringing to the table and what you're getting, the comparison is always with other employees, right? Your coworkers, right? If you're doing the same job, you always wonder how much is this person getting paid as compared to what I'm getting paid, right? And that's a very, kind of tricky, and really multifaceted type of situation, right? Because that person could have came in a year where they were doing well, and they had a lot more money to offer, and they weren't looking for a lot of things, right? Later this year when you came in, they were looking for more certifications and you didn't have the certain things, you're looking for more experience, you didn't have that, didn't have as much money. And so, and the position was really just kind of like, hey, we need somebody, but we're not desperate for someone, but we're willing to take a chance on you coming in as, a graduate student coming in and saying, hey, it's your first job as a, the PhD or DBA, whatever the case may be, right? And so some of that comparison is, okay, what's the difference between your job and my job, right? And you can only do that from oranges to orange, right? You can't compare what you're getting paid as compared to what the CEO's getting paid, right? There's a differential there, but it's really not the same, right? The responsibilities, the scope of work, the obligations, the time spent at work, two different things when we're talking about CEO and just a common worker. Although there's a huge disparity and it's increased from the CEO to the lowest paid person, right? I think it's like 135x now, I think it is, right? It's gone. It used to be 5x, then went to 15x, then 20x, and then 50x, and now it's like 135x or something crazy amount from the lowest paid person to the CEO, right? And so pay differentials are important because you don't want it to seem like the executive suite is getting paid an exorbitant amount of money. It's the perception of how much people get paid is important too internally, all right? Because if it seems like the executives and senior leadership are getting paid for less.
Professor,
Now, traditionally, the companies will usually start get rid of you first, right? Because minimum wage, right? At the end of the day, we're looking internally for, right? You just get 1,000 people. But last time I checked, the CEO was making $10 up out of his salary. It starts to come in between the workforce and the leadership and the management. Because now it's like, wait a minute, why are we paying CEOs $20 million, right? That's just their base salary. And we are paying or laying people off because we're saying we're having cuts, we need cuts, we're going in the red, right? It doesn't add up for most people, right? And it doesn't make, I'm not a big proponent of a high salary for CEOs. I think if you're a CEO, $5 million is more than enough a year. I don't care what you're doing. Okay, that's more than, that's plenty, right? and that the lower level workers should definitely be making a certain amount of money that's somewhat commensurate with, you know, the work they're doing, but you need to be able to say, yes, we're making, you know, $20 million of that, you know, CEO gets 10%. I mean, think about it. If you're making depending on the size of the company, right? But let's just say Disney, right? Disney paid Bob Iger $54 million, right? Incentives, stocks, and all that stuff, right? But they made $140 billion, right? So relatively speaking, he's a discount, okay? Because he increased their revenue from 300 billion to 500 billion, right? That's
Only
only
like 1%.
yeah, it's minuscule, right? But unless you do the math, it doesn't look minuscule. It looks ridiculous. You gave this guy $54 million, right? You're just looking at the absolute value of the number and not really thinking about it in relative to the value he brings. Again, you have to look at the value that's brought in by the individual and what the compensation is, right? And so you have it where employers will start to look at it and say, the pay differential is too much, right? And I agree, the pay differential is getting out of control in companies, right? But they're not gonna rein it in, right? Why would you, as someone who's making $50 million a year, tell you, oh, you know what, that's too much money. You guys paid me too much. Just keep 10 million, give it to the employees. Not gonna happen. Now there are a few companies that do that, right? There are a few companies I've seen in order to, during COVID especially, that happened a lot. A lot of the CEOs and senior leadership that are making big money say, look, give me half my salary, right? And take that to keep us afloat, right? Keep our people and keep the staff up, that kind of thing. But you better believe they're making it up on the back end. Okay, somewhere, somehow, they might be getting more stock options, more perks, whatever the case may be. But they're definitely getting, or it might be an advantage to them to not take it because it's less taxes, right? So they say, you know what, keep half, use it to do, you know, pay the staff. I make less money, but in a couple of years, you pay me that over a couple of years, and it helps with taxes too, all right? So pay differential is important, right? And then looking at, you know, different job classification and ranking points, however they do it, right? However they evaluate the compensable factors, right? It could be, you know, usually most compensable factors are based on responsibility and scope, right? What are you responsible for, and what kind of impact does your job have on the overall goal, right? If you're the secretary, you probably have minimal impact on what the organization is doing, right? If you're at certain places. But let's say you're the secretary at Google or Microsoft or Apple, right? Do you think that the secretary probably is instrumental in what goes on in Apple or in that particular department or that section or that, you know, whatever that is, right? Huh?
Only for strategy.
What do you mean?
But they don't know what's happening in the operations. They have to be it has to be communicated.
No, it has to communicate, but let's just say, so a secretary, let's just say the school here, the receptionist here, as compared to the receptionist at Google. What do you think the requirements are? What do you think the requirements are for receptionists here?
Probably
Answer the phone.
pretty minimal.
Say that again?
Answer the phone.
Answer the phone? No, but I'm saying as far as getting the job, what do you think they need? As far as experience, education, what do you think they?
Probably fair, at least a bachelor's.
Maybe high school, bachelor's degree, right? Something like that, right? Okay. Google, what do you think? Or Microsoft or one of these or Amazon or Tesla. What do you think the secretary or the receptionist there needs?
I think it's the same thing.
You think the same thing?
Because it's the slide.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just talking about the person at the front desk,
Mm-hmm.
that's a minimal, that's less than if you're talking about Elon Musk's personal secretary.
Yeah, we're talking about this in general, right? Okay, so Joshua, you got something?
I just want to say, someone that can speak multi-languages and communicate.
Okay, so you have someone who can speak multiple languages, who's the receptionist, right? The receptionist at Google or Microsoft or any of these tech companies probably has some background in tech, right? Because imagine Bill Gates is at his office and guess who walks in? Elon Musk, right? and he says, hey, I got a meeting with Bill Gates, I got a meeting with some department, it's the thermodynamic nuclear fission department, and we have to talk about this. Where do I go? I don't know. I don't know I don't know what you said, right? But the receptionist there probably knows exactly what they said, right? So the requirements are higher, right? Because what they do at Tesla, what they do at Microsoft, it's much more than just here where's the registrar's office? Okay, I need to go find financial aid. Oh, it's right there. On the corner. Matter of fact, there's the CEO, there's the president, this is Dr. Vasquez right there. All right. So the pay is gonna be different, right? You're gonna have high requirements in those companies and you're gonna pay them more because they need to know more. They need to be more sophisticated, all right, than the average secretary, all right? So even a job as simple as receptionist at some of these companies, they're not, they're getting paid money. They're getting paid serious cash, especially it depends on the city, New York, California. They get paid decently, right? But at the end of the day, looking at the job rankings and the different way they look at, the scope and your responsibility, right? And so you're looking at that, the receptionist here not gonna get paid as much because their scope responsibility is minimal, right? As compared to somebody at a big organization where they're required to know a lot more about the organization and understand kind of more the intricate workings of the organization. All right, external equity, of course, that's basically the market. Okay, what's going on outside with our competitors? What's going on with the economy? What's going on in society in general? Okay, that plays a huge role in external equity in trying to figure out, are you being compensated fairly as compared to your peers externally, right? And external market, again, what drives the external market? As far as labor.
Supply and demand.
Supply and demand, okay? That's all it is, supply and demand.
Supply side economics.
If there is a high demand for it and a limited supply, it's gonna be high salary, right? You're gonna get paid a lot of money. But if there's a low demand and a surplus in supply, you good luck, okay? Good luck with that, right? And so you'll see that in the labor market, they'll say this, our employment rate is one of the lowest right now. It's been in a long time. And there's plenty of jobs out there, right? Do you feel like there's plenty of jobs available out there?
We also have a very low labor participation rate.
Low labor participation rate for sure. But who thinks that there's a lot of jobs out there?
There are a lot of jobs out there.
Mhm.
However, are they jobs people necessarily want to go do?
Okay.
That's where the crux comes in. Is if you have a master's degree, you want to go flip burgers at McDonald's. There's a job at McDonald's. But you want to go do that based on your training, education, and things of that nature.
This is true. This is true. Well, more importantly than that, right? It's not, if you want to do it. More important is can you do it? Right? If you look at the labor market and the job openings that are out there, nurses, doctors, people in technology, cybersecurity, right? How many of us in here are well versed in that kind of thing? Not too many, right? But that's where the jobs are at. Okay? It's easy to go to McDonald's, or it's easy to go to Walmart, it's easy to go to certain companies and say, oh, I have an MBA. Okay? Oh, cool. Get in line with all the other MBAs. Okay? Oh, but I have a master's in, AI and this other stuff. Oh, really? Okay. Hey, why don't you come to the front, right? Because we really need you. You are in this little small group of folks, right? It's getting increasingly more and more populated, but right now it's a very small niche community of folks that really understand, AI, machine learning, blockchain, for example, right? Who understands blockchain here and kind of cryptocurrencies and that kind of tokenization and all that other stuff, right? There's a bunch of jobs available in that field. But get ready, you don't know it, you're never gonna learn it. It's so complicated. Okay, it's extremely complicated. So there's plenty of jobs, right? And so you have to really get down and kind of look at the job market, just like we did the 2 weeks ago with the women make 77 cents for every dollar a man makes, right? You gotta dig a little deeper and really look at, okay, what are the factors that are really influencing, right? Is the job market really that great? Yeah, it's all right if you're a nurse. If you're a techie, right? If you understand all that stuff, it's great. The market busting, you'll get a $250,000 job, right? But if you're a business or you're an arts major or history major, right? What are you gonna do with that, right? No, my sister was a psychology major in college, undergrad, and I'll never forget this. Was funny. And I said, you better pick something else. She said, no, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna find a job. She graduated, top of her class. Year went by, no job. Okay, because that field, psychology, psychiatry, mental health type thing, is demanding, right? But you need to have advanced degrees for that.
Somewhere with someone
Right,
who helps you out.
yeah, you gotta know somebody. She found a job eventually, but
With your clients.
yeah, but you need advanced degrees for that. You need a master's at least to do anything in psychology, right? Doctorate preferably, and then you have to talk about certifications, right? Because you're not just gonna roll in, right? Social workers, they're very difficult to get, right? Drug counselor, because those things take time to really understand people and you get the training that you need, right? You need 300 hours of clinical training to be a social worker. Where you gonna get that from? Right? You gotta find somebody to give it to you, right? It has to be observed, right? 300 of it, 200 of it has to be observed. So that means you have to find a company that's gonna hire you, who's gonna put you under a mentor so they can evaluate you and then document that you met the criteria for 100 hours observed under this particular training program, right? So it becomes difficult in a lot of times, in certain ways, right? And so looking at, those things that play a role into, your equity on what you think is fair, right, in the external market, in the market in general, right? It's just different for everybody, right? Different for everyone, because you may not necessarily have the skill sets to do that job that's out there that you say, oh, it's cool. Or you may go into the market and say, oh, my buddy got hired here, right, at this rate, and I'm expecting to get hired the same amount of money, but you may not bring the same thing to the table as that person does, right? Or Apple's paying, $150,000 for a software engineer, where Google might be paying $200,000 for a software engineer, right? Different things, right? Google does different things than Apple, right? Apple may not necessarily need someone who's well versed in, data structures or whatever the case may be, okay? So you gotta have look at it and try to figure, okay, how do I, really fit into the market, right? When I go in for a job, right? Do I know how much I'm really worth, right? And this is where you have to really go back to and say, hey, we're gonna give you 85,000. If you don't know how much you're worth because you don't understand the market, you're gonna shortchange yourself, right? It's great for the company, but it's not good for you. All right, individual equity. All right. So again, looking at different things people bring to the table, based on their training, education, experience, certifications, all that good stuff, right? That's going to have a definite, impact on how much you get paid and what the company is willing to sacrifice as far as compensation for you, right? But they got all these particular ways in which they look at it, right? And say, all right, well, what is it that we're looking for? We're looking for experience. Are we looking for some young blood, some new energy in here? Are we looking for someone who's extremely proficient at what they do? And they may not have a lot of experience, but they're really good. All right. So for instance, your social media influencer, right? I don't know anything about social media, to tell you the truth, right? I'm not a big social media guy. But there's a lot of folks out there making millions of dollars. You would not believe how many social influencers there are in San Diego, downtown San Diego. They all live in one building, I think. Okay? These people are making serious money, right? But don't ask me to make a TikTok or Instagram or whatever it is. I don't know. Okay? So companies are not gonna pay me anything to do that work, right? So depending on what I'm looking for, I may take that young person that said, hey, I'm a good social media influencer, all right? And a perfect example, the Kardashians,
Mhm.
okay? What did the Kardashians do before social media?
Nothing.
Nothing, okay? Their father was a lawyer, right? And the mom, she was a manager and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, they didn't bring anything to the table. But guess what? They're loaded, right? They're pretty much all are billionaires individually, for the most part, right? Close to it, right? Again, what is that we're looking for? We're looking for someone to promote our product, right? Someone to be an ambassador. Okay, that's okay. We can bring them on, right? We can just base their employment on what they bring to the table, kind of their merit or their skill set. Vice bringing on, Dr. Case, who doesn't know anything about social media, right? But he understands AI and machine learning, right? Okay, we're looking for someone that has some technical knowledge about that. Okay, we'll pay him a certain amount and we'll bring him on, right? But they look at all these factors and decide, how are we going to evaluate what we need, right? How are we going to evaluate the person and determine whether they, how they get paid, right? Seniority basis, pay system, reward longevity, right? But how many people are you really keeping in the workforce that are above a certain age, right? How many people are coming into you at age 55, 60, 65, wanting a job in your company? Again, it depends on what it is that you're doing as a company, what it is they're doing as an individual, what they did do, right? And what they're willing to do, right? And older folks kind of set in their ways, they ain't trying to do too much, they're not listening to nobody, right? They kind of like, okay, you don't know anything, you're 24, what do you know? You don't know anything, I'm 60, or whatever the case may be, right? You got to contend with those attitudes, right? Merit-based pay, of course, based on employee performance. But each of these particular instances have their cons, right? Especially when you're talking about merit-based pay, right, and team-based pay. Merit-based pay is very subjective because I'm relying on someone else to say, hey, you did a good job. What if I don't get along with the person? What if the person doesn't like me? What if the person doesn't think I did a good job, but I actually did do a good job? Or what if the person thinks I did a great job when I actually did a crappy job, right? So it's very subjective. It's very, kind of hard. That's why a lot of companies stay away from this, right? This one, though, is a little different, right? The problem with this one is that you have a bunch of people that you got to contend with, right? And so it's kind of like your grade, right? Your grade's a reward in your group studies, in your group case study, the group RDs, right? And whatever you submit is representative for the whole group. So if Joshua, did his thing, put in like Pulitzer Prize winning writing, right? And another student put in some kindergarten, first grade, the foxes brown or whatever, right? And didn't do anything, right? But guess what? You're gonna get the same grade. Doesn't matter, okay? Kind of like going back to the military. Doesn't matter.
One person screws up, you're all paying.
You're all paying the price, but it doesn't matter as far as like how much work you put in or you don't put in. Everybody gets paid because it's based on your rank and your time you've been in, not necessarily the work you put in, right? The work you put in and how well you do, that gets manifested in the performance evaluation, right? But you have to worry about whether the performance evaluations are objective and done correctly because that ties into your compensation. So you can see where it can get really muddy very quickly, like real ugly, really fast, especially when you're doing team-based thing, because each individual on the team has their own agenda, right? You don't want to think that, but they do, right? Some people are okay with C's. Some people are okay with D's. They're like, I pass the class. That's what I care about. Some people, they don't get a 99.9, they're upset. Okay? They will send you emails and curse you out. I had one student, he had a 99.8. He didn't have a 100. He couldn't get I forgot what it was. And he got an A plus, he just didn't have 100. He sent me this long email cursing me out about how I screwed him and I'm like, what? Okay, so you have these different kind of competing agendas. Now imagine your pay is based on your performance as a team, right? One person is not carrying the weight, but guess what? They're gonna get the same reward as you if the team does well, right? And so you gotta kind of consider all those things when you look at how do I set up the different sort of metrics or evaluation process when it comes to, looking at compensation. Do I do it based on a team? Do I do it individually? Do I do it, where we're looking at, like, reaching a goal, right? Or incremental goals, right? Incremental milestones. Every quarter, we're hitting this, we're hitting that, so we will start to pay out on different things, right? And so all those things are important for companies and for folks to kind of look at, right? Like I said, internal grading method, job ranking, classification, point making, and factor comparison. Your actually, you guys aren't doing that one. You guys are not doing. Have another exercise that you have to create a pay scale. You're an HR director, and they come and say, "Hey, we need to restructure the whole pay band." And you have to go in and kind of do it, right? And so you have to kind of pick, how you want to rank the jobs, how you want to classify. If you're gonna use a point method, you're gonna use a factor comparison, right? And when you use a point method, you basically are assigning points for certain things. Okay? Bachelor's degree is worth 10 points. Master's degree is 15, and PhD or DBA or doctorate of any sort is worth 20 points. Right? Experience 5 to 10 years is worth 20 points. So it's kind of that thing. And then the more points you have, the higher you are on the priority list, right? As far as, okay, being hired and then the pay that's associated with that, right? This is where you see these pay ranges when you go look at a job. What's the pay? 65,000 to 200,000. That's a huge range, right? But they all look at the points that are assigned each thing: experience, education, responsibility, scope, that kind of thing, right? Location. Try to figure out, do we want to use point method? We use a factor comparison where we look at each particular aspect of the job and say, okay, this particular responsibility, right, is worth this much money, right? This other person may do it also, but then they don't have anything else they do. They just kind of do this. This person does that, and they do 5 other things, right? And so you have to compensate them for that. You have to look at that and try to figure out, how are we going to balance that out? Because eventually, and I know it's kind of taboo to ask people how much they make, which you can ask anybody that's not against the law, but most people don't like talking about their pay to other people, right? And most people don't like asking anyway. But they're all curious as to if we have the same degree, or at least I think we have the same degree, and we're doing the same job, would it not make sense that we get paid the same amount of money? Right? And that's not always the case, right? We just talked about this. Pay transparency versus secrecy. All right. Again, it's not a secret, right? All publicly traded companies have to disclose their pay structure, especially for the senior executives, right? If you're publicly traded, what I mean by that is if you have stock. If you issue stock in any way, you have to disclose your pay structure, right? And it's not the only place where you have to be very specific and itemize it is in the C-suite. The CEO gets paid $54.12.05. The CFO, those folks, they have to put the exact dollar amount. But for everyone else, it's just a general pay band. Like, okay, software engineers get paid, on average $68,000 in this company. So they have to disclose that based on the rules of the SEC and FTC. Thank you. Right. So transparency, as far as pay, is helpful. Especially if you're going to, going to go look for a new job, you want to get hired. You always want to know how much am I going to get paid, right? And you see some job recs, they don't always have that. They don't always have the salary on there, because they don't want you to necessarily, come in with a fixed amount that they're not ready to give you. right? They kind of want to see whether or not you did your homework. This is really where they, kind of figure out, okay, did this person go out and really find out what their market value is, right? Because we're not going to tell you anything. We're just going to say, hey, come in and you'll see competitive salary. That's what it'll say. Competitive market salary, right? And then now you got to figure out what does that mean. Well, now you got to go out and look at, okay, what's the average computer programmer, doctor, whatever, getting paid, right, in this particular industry, in this area, right, in this particular discipline. And that will give you an idea as to, how much you should be looking for, right? But most companies are pretty open with, how much they're paying employees and that kind of thing. And not hiding it, especially nowadays where, you really can't hide too much anyway. All right, things are kind of out there in the ether. So transparency is important. And you don't want to come off as secretive, because the minute you come off secretive, people automatically think you're doing something wrong. Right? Why are you hiding it? If you're hiding it, there must be something wrong with it. Right? And so just being transparent, and most companies you could have access to that particular information. It's just that they don't make it easy. It's somewhere deep down in some drive, in some folder that's in the student, it's in the employee handbook, somewhere that's knee deep, 8 layers of firewalls and all that stuff. You can get to it. You just gotta find it. You gotta search for it, right? And then nobody knows where it's at exactly, except for HR, right? And if you really want to know, you go to HR. They'll give you the published list, and you're like, okay, this is what it is, and you can kind of figure it out.
So, question.
Yes.
So, when you apply for jobs, on the application, it's optional to list what you're looking for in terms of salary.
You can, yeah.
Okay, so does it have any bearing on, negotiation, or if the company or HR decides this is too high, so they would
Yeah.
let it go?
Yeah,
Or too
absolutely.
low of a number?
Too low, too low is usually not a problem. Too high, yes. Too low. You know what it is with too low? If you don't come in to where they expect you to come in, they'll definitely be curious as to why. Because then they'll think, okay, there's something they're not telling us that happened to them, and we need to find out why if we really want this person, right? Sometimes people get fired from a job, right? And they don't necessarily want to put down the salary that they were getting at the job they got fired at. So they put the previous salary that they were getting, which is at a lower level. So the company was like, or the hiring company was like, 50,000. So that's not market value. So we know this person understands market value. Why they say 50,000? Then they're doing a little more digging, like maybe this person got fired, something happened that is making this person, coming to us at a discount, because at that point they might think you're desperate. Like, I just need a job because I pretty much, my name is like crap in this industry. I'm just trying to get my foot in the door. I'm taking whatever you give me, right? So they're a little leery on that, but they'll take you, right? Too high is when they kind of like, hey, they'll tell you, we don't mind interviewing you, and we'll tell you, if we want to hire you, this is what we got, right? They don't mind looking at it and say, hey, and then if it's something that's out of their reach, they're like, Rob, at the very beginning, like, this is out of our expected pay band, or what we were willing to pay you. So if you're okay with that, we can continue on with the interview. If you're not, then thank you for coming and move on.
Yeah, so when I applied for a job and I interviewed, they asked me, let me see what you put on for the pay. And they said, they laughed, giggled, and they were like looking at each other, and they said, this is too low that you expect, that you applied.
Right.
I did the market research and I thought maybe this is a good enough number.
Right.
But they said, we're gonna pay much more than this.
Right.
If we hire you, so.
Yeah, if we hire you, right? Again, another leverage point, right? To bring in more quality candidates. That's what, because if you thought the market value was one thing, and you did your research, everybody else is doing research is going to come up with the same number probably, unless they have some inside information, right? So they're going to come up with the same thing. So now it looks good on the company's behalf, like, yeah, the market said 50,000, we're giving 75, right? Because we're a nice company, we care about you, we really want you to come on board. And they do. They want the best talent, right? But they're not going to pay you any amount of money that they are not willing to really sacrifice, right? And whatever they give you, even if it's above market value, for them, it's not a big deal. Because they already had it predetermined, this is what we're paying our person that comes in, but this person needs to have, right? You gotta meet all these requirements if you try to get this money, right? If you want the money you propose, then yeah, we'll scratch some of these off. And a lot of times they will say, you know, we have these 10 requirements for this pay, but you only have 6 of them. You're willing to take less pay till you get the other 4, right? They'll do that a lot of times because they don't mind. Because if they see the talent, they see the potential, and they're gonna get you a discounted rate, what's gonna happen to them? The worst that's gonna happen is that you don't necessarily meet the next 4 requirements to get to this higher pay band right away. Maybe over time you get to it, maybe you don't get to it at all, right? They may have to hire someone else, which sucks, but at the same time, it's less money for what it is that you're doing, right? So they don't mind, as long as it's equitable. All right, as long as it's equitable, we're paying you fair amount, fair value for fair work. Right, so really that's what it boils down to. GS scales. All right, this is one of the government's many scales now, okay? This used to be the primary scale. GS is a general schedule. I think GS stands for your general schedule, right? It goes GS1 all the way to GS15, and between
SES.
yeah, then it goes to SES, right? Senior executive staff here. And so between each GS are 10 steps. Okay, so you got GS1 step 1, GS1 step 2, step 3, step so forth, so on. And each one incrementally is a pay bump, right? But you can have it to where the GS8 is making more money than being a GS2 at step 1. You see what I'm saying?
And then if they promote from a 1 to a 2, they have to promote into the 2 that is gonna be at least, if not more than their GS1 pay.
Right. Not important. Okay, this is an example, right? Unless you're gonna work for the government, and if you are gonna work for the government, you'll figure it out very quickly. All right, it's not complicated. It's just this is what the government uses. They have another scale for the problem the government ran into is that the government is capped as to how much they can pay someone, even the president. Okay, the president is capped at a certain amount, and so there are certain jobs that the government we need within the government that they can't pay the person the fair value, right? Because if I have a job choice between Apple and working for the government doing the same job, I'm going with Apple, right? Because Apple's gonna pay me $200,000. The government's not gonna pay me $200,000 to do the same job, right? Granted, I have other perks with the government, right? Got guaranteed holidays off for the most part. The schedule's pretty flexible, right? And the government's a little more structured as to, okay, we got certain objectives, and the government's slow. So it's usually a very calm, chill environment, unless you work in the Pentagon or DC, Capitol Hill, that kind of thing, right? But they came up with a different scale, and so they can accommodate those industries that they really need, that they can afford based on the GS schedule. So they have the WG schedule, they have the Y schedule, they have NF schedule, and all these particular schedules, they go to certain job or certain industries, right? Some are medical, right? Some are technical in nature, and so they can keep up with the actual private market, right? So now, if I get hired by the government and it's an AI job or a machine learning job, they'll say, okay, we're gonna pay you $150,000, $200,000, right? Cool, I appreciate that because that's what Apple would pay me. Okay, they couldn't do that before under this particular schedule. This pay structure.
Schedule too, that's what you said.
This one's old. Yeah, this one's old, right? And so a lot of companies have that, you know. Oh, here's a point system set up. Okay, so you see how at every level, right, and for every category, they assign certain points, right? As you can see, as you get to the higher level, more points are required or given to your education, right? So for us here, you know, most of us, doctor, you know, you're gonna be up there somewhere, right? You're gonna get more points for education, right? And so that'll put you ahead of most people. Experience, maybe down here, you know, technical skills, probably over here, working condition, that plays a huge role, right? Whether the environment is, hazardous or not hazardous and that kind of thing, responsibility, right? And so it all depends on, a varying amount of factors as to what we pay. Right? Want to say something? No? Okay. All right. Good.
Does overqualification ever become a problem? For
Yes,
any position? They say,
absolutely.
"You're overqualified for this."
Yes. Absolutely. Happens to me all the time.
They
Oh,
would
qualified.
know you would leave.
It's the dumbest thing for them to say.
Yeah. What you got?
They would know you would leave, you did experience, and you
Yeah.
leave and get promoted. or
Yeah.
something.
That's the problem with, when you go in and you feel like you're overqualified, they feel like you're gonna leave, they feel like you're gonna get bored and not really be engaged and really satisfied in the job. So then you start to get disgruntled and you start to kind of look for other things, you start nitpicking stuff, you start to question the boss, right? No boss wants someone working with them who they already know is smarter than them. Okay, that's just an insecurity bomb waiting to go off. Okay, the boss is like panicking because like this person about to take my job. I already have a bachelor's degree and you're coming in with a master's or PhD or whatever, DBA. Yeah, that making me nervous. Okay, so guess what? You're overqualified. We don't need you. You go somewhere else and do some other fancy work, right? And this is the problem. These are the issues you're gonna run into at DBAs. You're gonna go to a company and they're gonna be like, yeah, we really like you, but you're overqualified. Okay, unless you go to, and again, it depends on the industry too, right? When you're talking about tech loves PhDs or anything doctorate. They love people with doctorates, right? The medical field, doctorates are great, right? When you get into business, DBA, MBA, it gets real sticky there, right?
What do
Because
you mean, which one?
Because more than likely, the CEO doesn't have a doctorate. So why would I want to hire you with a doctorate, right? Because you're going to be expecting more pay. You're going to come in with it's a lot of insecurity. It's more of an insecurity thing for the organization than it is anything else, all right? You have a bunch of DBAs running around, 5 or 10 of them doing DBA stuff in the company. A lot of the other employees, they're going to start to resent you, right? Because they just see you as, oh, you're just super smart, you got a doctorate, because everybody, what percentage of the population has doctorates?
Two or more?
It's 1%.
One?
Yeah, 1 maybe it's 1.5 now, right? 1.5% of the population, I'm not talking about the United States, I'm talking about the world, globally, have doctorates, right? And so now you come moseying in with your doctorate, and they're looking at you like, what do you want, right? Oh, we have MBAs here. So what do you want, DBA? You want a job with us? No, I don't think so. All right. Now, you'll find that the companies will want you, but they will definitely caveat it with, hey, you might be overqualified with the job, but if you're willing to, kind of
Take it for this amount of
yeah,
money.
take it to this kind of amount of money and kind of scale it down a little, sometimes, then they're fine. Right? And usually, once you get into the job and you start talking to everybody, your personality and who you are really the most important thing at the end of the day, right? I know a lot of DBAs and just dummies and PhDs, they're just people with doctors. It's just stupid, right? They're book smart, but they got no common sense, right? And that's what you really need out there, right? And so you'll run into that issue where you are overqualified, right? And again, depending on the job, right? And depending if you're trying to get your foot in the door, depending on location, depending on your personal needs, right? Some people will go, take a job. Like I had a friend of mine, she's a lawyer, and Chris can attest to this, right? In the military, we move around a lot, okay? And some of the places you go to, they're little small towns. And the only thing that is keeping the economy going is literally the military there, right? The base and all that stuff. It's basically the economy there. And a lot of these guys, they come with their wives and their husbands, right? And I had a particular friend, his wife was a lawyer. She was a big time lawyer, right? She like worked for Judge Bill Brown, like she worked on TV shows. She worked for the, Supreme Court of Illinois. So she's very credentialed. When she got to this little town, Jacksonville, North Carolina, And she couldn't find a job as a lawyer there with all her credentials. She was bagging groceries at the store, at the supermarket. That's what she did. She bagged groceries at the supermarket. This is before we had Zoom and all this other technology that helped, facilitate, jobs and remote work, right? She was bagging groceries at the store. And people would come in and they see her bagging groceries and they would think, oh, this girl, she had no education. They feel sorry for her, not knowing that she's wired tight. She just happens just to be here, and that's just the way it goes, right? And so you can run into those little qualified issues a lot. Right? Hay compensable factor, right? So, Hay was some social scientist. I don't know too much about him, right? But basically, what he figured out was that there are certain things that companies should look at when you talk about compensating people, okay? And so, the first one is know-how, okay? Do you understand what to do, right? What is your natural ability to just, do things, right? Whatever industry you're in, right? Problem solving is another one, right? How good are you at just coming up with solutions to problems, to things that, are just baffling or complex? Do you think out of the box and that kind of thing, right? Right? Accountability, right? This goes back to what I was speaking about, responsibility and scope, right? What are you responsible for? Who are you responsible for? How far does that go? A manager down here who has 4 or 5 people working for them probably doesn't have the same scope and responsibility as a manager up here who has 1 person working for them. Okay, the impact up here is probably more or greater on the organization than it is down here. All right, and so when I compensate them, I need to compensate them a lot more up here than I do down here, because their value or what they're imparting on the organization is not really. It's not that it's not impactful, because it is, but it's not the same level per se. All right. All right. Job, standing, kind of. Current equity, we talked about this, go to the market. Okay, so this is the last thing. What time is it?
45.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll close out. Sorry. I gotta keep you on track, all right? Once it's 7:30 hits, you're like, hey, Dr. It's 7:30. That way I know. Because in my mind, the time is slow. What's that?
That's Chris's job.
That's Chris's job?
I was so enthralled by I didn't wanna take away from our learning opportunity.
I don't know. I think if you had said something, the class would be like, yeah, good call. We'll finish up with this, right? Lag policy, market policy, and lead policy, right? If you have a lag policy, right, you decide that you're gonna pay less than the competition, right? And what that does basically is you probably don't have that much money, right? You're probably a startup, probably a small entity, right? And you're gonna get a lot of people coming in, right? Get a lot of picks to come to kind of want the job, right? Now the issue is the quality, right? You're gonna get quantity, but you're not gonna get a lot of quality problems, right? Because you're not paying competitively. You're behind or not, keeping up with the market. When you have the market policy, you basically keep up with the market and you are competitive with everybody that's within the industry, all right? So you're gonna get, a decent size, average size who that apply to the job. So, you'll get decent talent, okay? When you have the lead policy, you're paying the big bucks, okay? But you're also more stringent, more restrictive, probably filtering through, any little thing is wrong. Oh, 3.9 GPA, no, not good enough, right? You have more choices as far as the person you do pick is coming from a smaller pool, but they're very high quality, right? And so this particular approach depends again on the industry, to me anyway, right? Because if I'm the chief of staff at a hospital, which one do I really want to use here?
Probably want to use lead policy.
I probably lead policy, right? Depending on what it is I'm hiring for. If I'm hiring a surgeon, I want lead policy. I probably want lag policy, right? Not that the doctors coming in are good, but they're not as good as this person or these people, right? Because these people I'm paying a lot more money for, right? I'm willing to pay for the quality. Here, I'm probably looking to fill in spaces, right? Fill in the staff that's decent, but not like superstars, or maybe don't have the experience or that kind of thing, right? But I'm willing to train them, get them up to par, good to go, and it's gonna cost me less money, right? Maybe up front, I don't have a lot of money, but I need a staff, right? So I'm willing to take you as my social media consultant, straight out of college, to do this for 50,000. You okay with that? Yeah, cool. All right. The person that does social media for Google, Tesla, all these big Fortune 500 companies, they're not coming straight out of college. You know, these guys have experience or been doing whatever they're doing for a while, right? And they're getting paid. And then normally, this would be the social media coordinator. This would be the communications officer. Okay, totally different. Same job, more than likely, different titles. Okay,
Please again, what was the last?
this person will probably be the social media coordinator. This person will probably be the communications officer. Okay, right? They're both external, right? They're both external to the company as far as like the interaction they have, right? But this person probably has a lot more responsibility because they're gonna pay a lot more money, and is probably more articulate and more well versed and has had different experiences that this person is not gonna have. So they're willing to kind of work with that. Okay. All right. Any questions, comments, complaints, concerns? No? All right. I want everybody to have a good night. If you have any questions or anything, anything we talked about earlier, send me an email. And I will address it as quickly as possible. I will definitely get the final draft graded, by tomorrow. But from what I've seen earlier, aside from the plagiarism thing with the similarity score, I think everybody's pretty much, their papers are looking pretty decent, right? Definitely pay attention, and I don't know how the feedback thing looks on your end, but read my feedback. Because if I give you feedback, all right, and I don't see it incorporated in the next version, I'm gonna take points off. Okay, because there's stuff that I gave you feedback about in the lit review, and I see it again in the draft. I'm like, okay, so you didn't listen to me, you didn't read anything I said, right? And so not only does it make me piss me off because I wasted my time giving you feedback, but then now eventually I'm gonna have to grade you on it, and you're gonna come back and say, well, why I get this grade? Well, I told you in week 3 to fix that, right? So make sure you incorporate all that feedback, all right? Use the AP manual, please. Okay, to format. It's helpful. All right, that's it. Everybody have a good night.
Thank you. One-on-one.
Hey, Matt, can you tell, your lovely husband, to give me a call
Give you a photo.
tomorrow?
Oh, I will send
Okay, I
him.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a good night, bye-bye.
How's the baby going? Good? Okay.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Huh?
Where did you go tomorrow?
When I go on the road.
Well, that's cool. Right, no, no.
Got hurt as well.
Laura,
Landed on my knee while.
you have any questions or anything?
Yes, I actually talked with the Ruben and he's officially out of the school.
Say that again?
The Ruben is officially out of the school. So I
Oh,
just,
he's out?
yeah,
Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna stick you probably, how many people you got in your group?
This time is a little early,
Four?
maybe, I'll send.
It's you, Rad.
We have Nehemiah and Marceline.
Okay, I might just ignore with you guys. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'll just, if you
Hey,
do,
are you in the same group with?
no, Nehemiah, we are in
How
Marceline.
many people in your group?
How many people?
Yeah,
5.
you have 5 already? Okay, yeah, you're right.
Okay,
Okay.
tell her I'll
Um,
email her.
Nara, Christopher's gonna email you. You're gonna be in
Okay.
that group.
okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
If you need some extra time on something, based on the group, discussion, because it's kind of late in the week, you'll be fine with Christopher and right now that they'll take care of you, but, anything previous?
Uh-huh.
Last one, let's talk about that, because I want to make sure you guys I didn't like the grade that you got, but I know that wasn't because of you, so
Um,
if I remember correctly. So let's talk about that if there's one of the grades that you're not too happy about on the group stuff, okay?
okay. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'll.
Okay. I'll talk to you later.
Perfect. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I'll take care of that.
Okay, well, I appreciate it, yeah. She was in the same predicament you guys were earlier with,
Oh,
yes.
is he still around?
Yes, he is. Absolutely. What's up, D? Wait for me?
Plagiarism, what is the highest,
Oh, what's up?
I mean, what is the tolerance for plagiarism?
10%.
10,
Zero for plagiarism.
Oh.
Similarity, 10%, but if you properly cite things, you're okay.
10%.
Let's get it correct. Plagiarism, there's zero.
No, I just want to talk plagiarism. Yeah, but no, everything's still, we're still on track. I just want to catch up. Okay?
I'll call you up.
Thank you, Dr. Baba.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Say hi to the little.
Oh.
Bye-bye, little. Bye-bye.
Alright.
Mom crying all 2 hours.
Was he? Oh, no. Oh.